All right. Hi there, everyone. Good evening. My name's Nicole. Welcome back to our English class focusing on pronunciation. Today, we will continue with pronunciation part 3. In our previous sessions, we laid a really important foundation with the fundamentals of how we make sounds in English or on pronunciation. Today, we are going to build on that just a little bit more with some key fundamentals, and then we are going to take to talk or to tackle some of the trickier, more complicated pronunciation stuff. So, are you ready to get started? Let's dive in immediately. Let's start with today's focus. For today, we will be tackling about 5 topics. We have suffix endings like the suffix ed and the suffix s and as. Consonant clusters, we'll also talk about that. We'll also talk about fast and connected speech, as well as polite and formal pronunciation. And lastly, to, we will end today's session with regional accents and variations. But before that, let me check my screen. Yes, okay. All good. All right. Let us start with suffix endings like ed and s or es. Let's start with the first suffix, which is the ed or the ed. Now, in here, we use this particular suffix ending for the past tense of regular verbs. So, there's 3 pronunciations for this because this particular ending sound, a suffix ed, is not just very simple one-way pronunciation. So there are some pretty, clear rules that govern it. Let's start with the first rule. Let's break them down one by one, starting with the first rule, which is the t sound. Again, the t sound. The rule here is that we will pronounce the suffix ed or ed as t if the verb ends with an unvoiced consonant sound. And remember, we understand unvoiced consonant sound as those sounds where our vocal cords aren't vibrating. So that's unvoiced consonant sound. Then that ed suffix here is actually pronounced like a t sound. Again, t sound. So we have examples here. These words, these past tense of regular verbs, we will say it like this. Listen to me, walked, helped, laughed, washed, watched. Notice that there is a T sound at the last part of the word. So just to better understand, I'll make it much more easier to you. We can just type it in like this and then you'll read it as is. So this is not the Sorry for that. This is not the phonetic transcription of this particular word. This is just, a very simple literal spelling of how we say the word, like walked, helped, laughed, washed, and then watched. So what I did here is that I just, put some letter T at the end of the word, at the end of the base word, just for you to see how these particular words, past tense of the regular verbs, are pronounced. So they are pronounced as the ed suffix here is pronounced as t, the t sound. So make sure that you can pronounce these clearly and correctly. So again, walked, helped, laughed, washed, watched. Again, walked, helped, laughed, washed, watched. So make sure that you pronounce it clearly. So again, these things that I've typed on. This is not their phonetic transcriptions, okay? That's another thing. But I just type it in for you to see really clearly how these particular words are pronounced. So that is for the first rule. And then the reason for this is just, to sound smoother, to put it is just to sound smoother, because it sounds smoother if you put an unvoiced sound after another unvoiced sound. So that's why we have here a t sound for for the verbs who has an ending sound that is considered as unvoiced. That's it. Unvoiced plus unvoiced. Next, rule 2. Well, the second rule is almost the opposite of the first one. Here, if the verb ends in a voiced sound, where you do feel vibration in your throat, or if the verb ends in a vowel sound, then that suffix ed or ed, it is pronounced as d, d. So it is pronounced as that sound, d, d. So here we have examples. Play becomes played, clean becomes cleaned, call becomes called, and dream becomes dreamed. Again, same as the first one, it's about that smooth transition between voiced sounds. Now, just to recap before we proceed with the rule number 3, rule number 1 is you use the t sound for unvoiced consonant sound, the last consonant sound of the word of the regular of the base word of the verb. So you use unvoiced sound for the unvoiced sound of the base verb. So unvoiced plus unvoiced, because it is much smoother to use it that way. Then for second rule, we used a voiced sound for those base verbs that has a voiced last consonant sound. So voice plus voiced sounds, because again, it is much smoother that way. All right, let's proceed with the rule number 3. Okay, rule number 3 here is for when the verb already ends in a t or d sound. So you have to address that. You have to find ways, alternatives, how you can pronounce those words that has already the t or d sound as the last sound for that particular word. So what we do here is, if that's the case, we actually add an extra syllable, and the suffix ed is pronounced as id. Again, it is pronounced as this one, id. That is pronounced as id. All right. So here we have three examples. I've provided three examples, but there's many of them. Now think about want. It becomes wanted. Wanted. Need, it becomes needed. And then brand, it becomes branded. So that is how you pronounced the past forms of those words that has already t or d sound on it. So to recap again, no, with all the three rules, it is all about the sound at the end of the base verb, and then unvoiced gets a t sound, voiced or a vowel gets a d sound, and if it ends in t or d, you get an extra id syllable. So the best way to really get this down is just to listen carefully to how these words are pronounced. Is that all clear? Everybody following so far? I think that's all clear. If that is, then it's time to practice. Now let's have a practice drill. What we have here is a table. Now what uh, in this table, uh, I will be reading the words, especially I will be focusing on the past tense, because that's the most important part, because that is the word, those are the words that has already the suffix ed, which is our focus in here. So in the table, I provided the base and its corresponding past tense. So your task here is to tell me the sound of the suffix ed ending. Is it a t, or is it a d, or is it an id sound? So remember the rules we've talked about earlier. Apply those rules into these words. You just need to tell me what's the sound that is produced on that particular past tense of the base verbs, applying the rules that were already talked about earlier. Okay, let's go through each verb one by one. All right, first up, borrow. The base word is borrow. It becomes borrowed. Again, borrowed. What's the sound of that ed suffix? Borrowed. Borrowed. All right. The sound is d, d. All right. The sound is d, d. Okay. Let me type it in here so that you'll just you can follow after me for a while, for a moment. What was it? D, d. Ah, yeah. All right. That is how you do it. That is d. Again, let me read the word borrowed. Borrowed. You do not pronounce it as borrowed or borrowed. It's borrowed. The second rule. Since we're talking about number two, let's have the next one. Fold is the base word and it becomes folded. Folded. What's the suffix ed sound here? Folded. Folded. All right. This is the sound of rule number three, id. Again, id. Folded. Folded. So this is the sound of it. For a while, trying to see. All right, that's the sound of this past tense. Folded, id, id. All right. Moving on to number three. How about walk becomes walked? Again, walk becomes walked. What's the sound of the ed in ending here? Walked. All right. It's obviously t, t. Again, it is t, t. Moving on to fourth one. It's so far it's really easy, right? Because I am saying, I'm pronouncing the word, and you know how those words are already pronounced too. No? You can easily follow after me. Then that's good. Anyway, going back, let's have play becomes played. Blade. Blade. What's the sound of the ed ending here? Played. It is d, d. Rule number two. D, d. All right. And finally, end becomes ended. End becomes ended. What was the rule when we add a syllable for those words, or for those words that has a t or d sound at the last of it, at the last letter of it? That is rule number three. And how do you pronounce the ed suffix here? You pronounce it as id, just like the second one. Id. Let me copy it for you. All right. That's how you pronounce this past tense of the word end. You say it as ended, ended, ended. All right. Excellent. Now you've correctly identified the add sounds for all of these words that I have provided. There are five. You are really getting the hang of this. So remember again, everyone, to always listen to the final sound of the base verb to determine how to pronounce that suffix ed. All right, there are three rules. You pronounce it as either t, d, or id. T, d, or id. All right. We shall move on to another one. We have the plural nouns. I mean the plural nouns where we uses the suffixes s or es. Again, s or es. Although this is not only on plural nouns, it can also be used for what we call third person singular present simple verbs. You can also use these particular suffixes s or es. So just like with ed suffix, it's not always a simple hissing sound like s. You don't always say it as like that for every word or for every word that you put an s on there as a suffix. So there are also three main rules for how we pronounce these endings, and then here you will also depend on the sound of the base word that ends it with. Say for example, let's have the first rule, the sound, the soft hissing sound, which is the s sound. All right. Here, if the noun or verbs ends with an unvoiced, all right, with an unvoiced consonant sound, and remember, those are the sounds without vocal cord vibration, right? So that suffix as is pronounced as simple as s. So it is as is, how you pronounce the letter S. You pronounce it as soft hissing like s. So when you have, so this is also what this rule number one is trying to say. If you have a noun or a verb that is unvoiced, you say the suffix as is. What's the sound of it? It's a soft hissing. It is like this. Again. All right. So we have four examples here. First, cups, cups. All right, that's just a soft hissing. Cut becomes cuts. Book becomes books. And then laugh becomes laughs. Uh, and then there's also month becomes months. Again, cup becomes cups. Cut becomes cuts. Book becomes books. Month becomes months. So the s suffix here is just soft hissing. It is the sound as is. You sound or you pronounce it as is. So it's the same idea with the suffix ed sound, where an unvoiced sound followed by another unvoiced sound feels more natural. So that's why they did this. All right. Next is on rule number two for this, for the suffix s or es. Here, since we've already talked about the unvoiced sound, of course, we'll also talk about the voiced sound, which is always paired by vowel, which is the same. This is very similar with the ed suffix, where the second rule is also voiced, is also dependent on the voiced sound and as well as the vowel sound, which is the same with this one. It's voiced and vowel, except the sounds z. Again, this is pronounced as z. So except that one, and then another is zh, like television. I mean vision, like vision. Zh. This particular, this particular transcription is this particular transcription. yeah, transcription is pronounced as zh. It's like the voiced counterpart of sh, like shoe. So the voiced counterpart of that is this one, the one highlighted. It's zh, like vision, vision, nation. Ah, no, not nation, but yeah, vision. That's something like that. Well, the third one, this one, this is pronounced as the letter J, like June, January, something like that. It's pronounced as that. That's how you transcribe. That's how you put the particular sound of J in the based on the IPA transcription. Anyway, let's have the second rule. Here, the rule is that the noun as well as the verbs ends in a voiced consonant sound where you do feel vibrations from your throat, or if it ends in a vowel sounds, then the suffix s is pronounced as z, the buzzing sound z. For example, we have here lives, pens, sings, sings, but not totally very harsh sound. There's just a little bit of that buzzing in there. So that's why we take it as is. Just like when I said sings. I said sings, not like that, but almost like that. All right. There's a little bit of properties of the z sound, but not totally all of it. Just a little bit. All right. And lastly, we have RUDs. RUDs. Okay, that is for rule number 2. Are we following so far? Let me see my screen. I hope my screen is matching. Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. Are we following so far? Are we good? Are we good, everyone? Everybody following? Are we clear on this? So far, we have tackled the first topic for today, which is on these suffixes ed and s or es. We've tackled about that. We're not yet finished with es, but I'm checking if you are following with me. If so far it is clear because we've already talked a lot for the first topic only. So it's not good to left you out alone. I'm gonna check from time to time just to see if you are still there with me. All right. Let's have the last rule for plural nouns for the suffixes s or es. The last rule, rule number 3, as you can see, is there a similarity between the third rule of, the suffix ed sound? There is a similarity. Um, in here, you use the sound is. So here you use this particular sound in plural nouns or other type when that particular noun or even verb. I think it's only on noun. I think it's only on noun. Wait. Yeah. So here the third rule it kicks in when the word ends in one of those hissing or buzzing sounds. So no matter no matter the part of speeches those words belongs to. So as long as the end sound of those words is of those hissing or buzzing sounds, like s, like here. Let me highlight it just so you can follow after me. We have s, z, again z, and then this one. This is not a hissing sound, but it's still considered as sounds a sound that should be paired with an is sound at the end. Again, this is not totally a hissing sound because um, because you pronounce it as sh. It's not very hissing, like there's a little bit property of H sound. So sh, like as in the word shoe, shoe. This one here is pronounced as shoe. That is shoe. For the next one, that is pronounced as sorry. Um Sorry for that. For a while, for a moment everyone. Where am I again? Oh no, wait. Yeah, yeah, here. All right. For this one, this is pronounced as zh, zh. I've already mentioned it earlier. The for our rule number 2, I highlighted it here. This one. Let me go back. It is except. Okay? Don't get confused. Maybe what you will remember is that I've mentioned it also on rule number 2, but you might have forgotten that I said except. So just to be clarified about that, this is except z, sh, and ch, ch. So these three sounds here, those are part of rule number 3. So again, this is pronounced as zh, zh, like television or vision. And then this one here is pronounced as ch, ch, as in cheese, choke, something like that. Ch, ch, or ch. Then the last one that is pronounced as, again, I've mentioned it earlier, that is pronounced as j, j, like June, January. All right. Those are the particular sounds that we depend on for rule number 3 so that we can use the is sound. All right. Now, in these cases, we should also take note that in the spelling, in the word itself, not the sound, we use the spelling or we use the suffix es. We do not use the suffix s anymore. We use the suffix es. All right. So again, just like the rule of um, suffix and for rule number 3, this also adds an extra layer of our syllable. And it adds an extra syllable. Just like on the particular examples here, we have the first one, bus becomes buses, buses. Quiz becomes quizzes, quizzes. Dish becoming dishes, dishes. Then watch becoming watches, watches. Wait for a while. I think this is not correct. But yeah, the spelling is correct. But I'm not quite sure with because it ends with watch. Ah, yeah, that's correct because it is ch. All right. Sorry about that. I got confused for a moment, but yes, this is correct. Again, to clarify, this is correct. We say it as watches, watches, then judges, judges. So those are words that includes the is sound because it has a final consonant sound that is hissing or buzzing. So that is it for plural not for the suffix s or es, which is used on plural nouns or the third person point of view, simple past tense verb. So that is all it, and I think that's all also for the first topic of the day, which is on suffixes. The third, so just like with ed suffix, you should pay attention to the final sound of the base word. So unvoiced sounds, except the hissy ones, you get an S sound. Voiced sounds and vowels get a Z sound. I'm sorry for that. I stand corrected. That is S sound, not S sound. S sound. Voiced sounds and vowels get a Z sound, and then those hissy sounds get an extra is syllable sounds, and then you write it as es. You write the suffix as es. So you just keep listening again, know how certain people, how English speaker say these words in different contexts. All right. With that, let's have a practice time. No, let's have a practice stream. It's very simple. Here, I just want you to identify to tell me if the particular plural, particular words that has already suffixes s or es suffixes on it is pronounced as s or is. First one, we have cups. Cups. That is obviously an S sound or the sound. How about second one? Dogs. Dogs. That's also an S sound or sound, a hissing. What about this one? Buses. Buses. Now, don't get confused. This is not a Z sound because there's another syllable. So this is an is sound. Again, this is an is sound. Now you might wonder why am I keeping wait for a while. Let me copy this one. Why am I doing why do the particular sounds have brackets on it? That is the standard, everyone. If you want to type the sound of a word or of a letter, you should put it like this. You should put the particular sound inside a slanted bracket. All right. Anyway, going back, fourth one, loves. Loves. All right, that's obviously S. And then place. Place. That is also an S sound. So no Z sound here, I think. Wait for a while. Let me check. Maybe I got confused. Mm, yeah, I think the second one. That is a Z sound because G, G is a voiced sound. So you should also use a voiced sound for it. So I think that's all clear. Everything is correct already for a while. E, E. All right. This one is also, I stand corrected, everyone. This is also using Z sound. So you say it as like this. Plays. Plays. This is the final answer. This is the final correct answer. Cups uses S sound. Dogs uses Z sound. Buses uses is sound, which adds another syllable. Laughs uses S sound. And then plays uses Z sound. All right. Very good job, everyone. So you have correctly identified the S sound, the suffix s or es sounds for all of these words. And yes, you really got this, I think, should be, because maybe it's simple concept for me, but these concepts are really fundamentals, and it is very important that you should know the fundamentals. All right, so let's move on to another topic. We're all good with suffixes ed and or and not pronunciation, but yes, suffixes ed and s or es. And we shall now have consonant clusters. Let's move on to something called consonant clusters. So these are basically groups of two or more consonant sounds that come right next to each other. They are beside each other, whether it is in the initial or in the last sound. So those are what we call consonant clusters. They are clustered, they are beside each other, they are grouped to each other. So they have like no vowel in between them. They are beside each other. So here, for many of you, these can be a little bit tricky because your first language might not have, it might not have as many of these of the following combinations that I will be providing, or they might sound like a little different from you. So it is really something we need to practice. Consistent practice is always the key for sounding naturally. All right? All right. Again, I've mentioned that there are many of these combinations. I will not be reading everything, okay? But I will be reading the cluster consonants. I will not be reading, maybe reading some examples, but not totally, you know, explaining how you just add those particular sounds. Not totally diving in there deeply. All right? Because there are many of them. This is the first slide, and then this is the second slide. So there's really many of them, these what we call consonant clusters, and this is just the initial position. This is just the cluster, consonant clusters that are found in initial position. So there's also those are that are found at the last part of the word. So let's take note of that. Anyway, let's dive in immediately with this one. We have first blue, like blue, black, blind. You focus on the smooth transition from b to b. There's also brew, brown, break, bring. Like another clean, class, climb, cur, cry, cream, crazy, flu, fur, free, friend, fruit, go, glass, glow, glad, green, great, ground, pull, 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 play, please, plant. Next, pr, pretty, price, proud, slow, sleep, slide, smooth. This one's a little bit tricky because it's not totally blending that much. It's almost separated. But yeah, I think it's separated because listen to the words that I will be speaking. Smart, smart, not totally smart. It's not immediately the second letter is not immediately blending into this first letter. So smart, smoke, small. Same as with this one, snow, snake, snap, as well as speak, sports, special, street, stop, start is almost blending already. That's much easier than the previous ones, the previous three. Also, we've also sweet, swim, swing. And then tree, try, train, as well as tree, twin, 12, twist. So those are consonant clusters that are found in the initial position of a word. We shall have a time to practice. Well, this is just very easy. You'll just have to, say the words with me. Because if we try to, find the initial cluster, consonant cluster, it's very easy. For this one, we've got blue. There's also here brown. And then the third one, we have clean, cry, and then fly. Those are the initial consonant cluster for these words. I'm sorry for that. For these words. So what I need you to do again is just to say it with me. Very as simple as that. So in two, one, blue, brown, clean, cry, fly. Again, blue, brown, clean, cry, fly. All right. Thank you so much for your participation, everyone. I hope that is all clear. If there are any questions, please tell me. Please write it in our chat bot. All right. Let's practice again those initial consonant clusters we just talked about. I'm going to say each word and I want you to repeat it after me, okay? Just like what we did earlier. In two, one, blue, brown, clean, cry, fly. Again, blue, brown, clean, cry, fly. So that is all it for initial cluster, consonant cluster. Next we have consonant clusters that are on final position. Now, oh, we don't need to, dig more deeper into this. I think this is the only slide for this one. So let's dive in into this one. We have the first. Is it? Yeah, LD. Old, like cold, old, oat, belt, felt, jump, lamp, nt, student, want, went, best, test, last, ask, task, desk, class, crisp, books, things, walks, eggs, bags, left, and soft in craft. So those are examples of final position and same as with the practice drill for the initial position. I just want you to read these words with me. These words that has final cluster, consonant cluster on it. I'm identifying it now. I'm putting underline. Very easy to see because it's on the last part of the word. Just like old and cold, old and felt, in lamp, in went, and st in last. So repeat after me in two, one, cold, left, lamp, went, last. Again, cold, felt, lamp, went, last. Excellent work. Now, very great job today, everyone. So here we focused on different consonant clusters. May it be located in the initial part of the word or it is considered as the final consonant clusters. So it is very important, everyone, that you focus on these initial sounds because it will really help you in the long run, especially when we are talking about pronunciation in English, right? So we will keep on practicing these consonant clusters. I hope you keep on practicing these consonant clusters because again, practice makes everything perfect. You just need to be consistent with how you practice saying the particular sound of a word or a phrase or even a sentence. Just keep on practicing. All right. Now let's turn our attention to another topic. We've already discussed again the consonant clusters. We know consonant clusters can be tricky, but don't worry. I guess there are. I provide. Have I provided? Ah, yes, I provided how to master consonant clusters. I've provided like some helpful strategies for mastering clusters, and you can use to make them easier to pronounce those consonant clusters. We have the first one. You need to slow down. Again, you need to slow down. Well, the very first thing is simple. You just need to slow down. So when you encounter a consonant cluster, you don't have to rush through it. Try to pronounce each individual sound within the cluster distinctly at first. So that gives your mouth time to form the correct position. Say, for example, the word black has an initial consonant clusters b and So you try to pronounce those distinct sounds of the letters first. B, and then you try to get the hang of it and then combine those sounds. B, 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 blah, 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 black. All right. Next is exaggerate each sound. So you can try to slightly exaggerate each sound in the cluster. This can really be very helpful too because you feel the different movements of your tongue and lips, which forms the particular sound. The tongue and lips, as well as the teeth or anything inside your mouth, is what we call here as articulators. All right. So anyway, going back, with the help of your articulators, you can create particular distinct sounds. So it might sound a little funny at first if you exaggerate something, but it can really help you get the hang of it. You just need a mirror and see for yourself how these particular sounds are produced by our articulators, how our shape, our tongue, our teeth, our lips are formed when we say b, b. All right. Next, listen carefully to native speakers, or even if not native speakers, but those who have already, who are already experienced in speaking English language. So this one's crucial. You can pay really attention. You can really pay close attention to how native speakers, or even those are who are already not native speakers, non-native speakers, but are experienced in English language. So you can listen to those kind of people, how they pronounce these particular words with consonant clusters. Then listen carefully, listen for each individual sound and how they flow together. You can use either recordings, you can use either movies, or even just simple conversations can already do you a lot. So listen carefully. Next, practice regularly. Practice regularly. Like with anything in language learning, I've already mentioned it many times. Every session, I've mentioned that you should practice regularly. Be consistent with practicing something new for your English language skills. And since we're talking about pronunciation, which requires you drill repetitions so that you can master the pronunciation of a particular word, a particular sound of the letter or the word. It needs so many repetition. And with repetition, you need to practice that. You need the effort, you need the consistency to really practice regularly. Because the more you practice saying these consonant clusters, since we're talking about consonant clusters, but this can be applied to any other kind of topic under pronunciation or the whole English language. But anyway, going back, the more you practice saying those consonant clusters, the more natural they will become. Because again, I've already mentioned it also many times that the goal of pronunciation is clear and not being natural, clear and natural language. So don't be afraid to repeat words and phrases that contain them. Despite many errors or mistakes that you might encounter all throughout, don't be discouraged. Okay, that's part of the process. Lastly, we have to break it down. So, this last strategy is really useful for those extra tough clusters. So, if you're really struggling, try inserting a very, very short sound, like a schwa sound. It's almost silent. It's between the consonants. So for example, for the word street, we have here street. We put a schwa sound there. So that flipped e, that is what we call schwa sound. That is how it looks like in the IPA alphabet. So that's schwa sound, a quick sound. So you can do that. You could initially try saying something like street, street, yeah, street, street. Then as you get more comfortable, you gradually make that the schwa sound shorter and shorter and shorter until it disappears completely and you are just saying street smoothly. So from street, then you keep on practicing, you keep on blending it well, you get street. You were able to say street properly. So remember these strategies, everyone. You need to slow down, exaggerate, listen carefully, practice regularly, and also don't be afraid to break it down if you need to. With a little effort, you will be pronouncing those consonant clusters like a professional, like a native speaker, right? Okay, moving on to fast and connected speech. All right, this is the third topic, I guess. I think this will also be the last one. I'm sorry, I think we cannot cover the last topic, which is last two topics, which is on polite and formal pronunciation, and also regional and what was it? Regional accents and pronunciation differences, if I am not wrong, but something like that. So we will continue those topics on our next session. because it's almost an hour and I don't want you to keep for so long. All right, let's have the last topic for today, fast and connected speech. So let's talk about how words flow when we speak naturally and quickly. So these are usually done in an informal setting, in a casual conversation setting. So one of the key things that happens is called linking. So it's all about connecting the sounds at the end of the one word to the beginning of the next. So the most common type here is linking. So take for example here. In linking, we identify consonant to vowel process. For example, we say the phrase an apple, an apple. If we are very used to saying this, and this phrase is a very common phrase, we can change this one and we can alter how this particular phrase is pronounced. We can say, you might be able to say an apple, an apple. So the n sound there is transferred to the second word. It's because it becomes an apple. Okay. Next, go out, go out, go out. So there's um there's a w sound there, like the W. So you that particular W sound is used as a linking to the second word. We also have for us, for us. Now notice that the sound er is transferred into the sound of us, so it becomes the first the initial sound of the second syllable. Instead of saying for us, like separated, we blend it and intentionally in a casual conversation or in an informal speech, and we say it as for us, for us. Okay. Next, see it, see it. Again, see it, see it. Now notice on the phonetic transcription, this one, the J sound. How do you pronounce this one again? That's not pronounced as J. What sound is what sound in the phonetic IPA alphabet has the same IPA phonetic transcription as this? It looks like J, but it's not pronounced as she. It is pronounced as ye, like the letter Y. You pronounce this as ye. So letter J in phonetic transcription, this that is the phonetic transcription of the sound ye. Okay, so with that, we read this transcription as see it, see it. So there's a Y sound there. See it, see it. You blend, you assimilate those syllables or those sounds of that particular phrase. Lastly, we have too often. Too often. It's very obvious in the phonetic transcription that there's a W sound there. So you say it as too often. Too often. Instead of saying how it should be said, how it should be pronounced, this particular phrase, how it should be pronounced, like too often, too often. Well, often is also correct, but I'm going to say too often. Too often. You pronounce it simply, you might mispronounce it as too often. Again, too often. All right. So the reason we do this kind of fast and connected speech is just to identify how certain phrases can really adapt to each other so that they would appear as one. So um, just take note of that, everyone, because when you're really listening to native speakers, they use this a lot of times, and it might get you confused, especially when you are not used to it. So that's why we are trying to tackle about this so that you get used to it, and it wouldn't be that much harder for you if you ever encounter a native speaker who uses these kind of fast and connected speeches. So you can try to practice again. Practice is the key. Consistency is also the key. So you can try practicing this linking sounds together at your own pace. Time to practice. Let's just say this the word and I mean this the phrases. Let's just say it. You can follow after me or you can say it with me. In two, one. An apple, an apple. But the proper way to say it is an apple. But as time goes by, we blend, we assimilate, we blend the last sound of the first word and then the first sound of the last word, and then we get blending and we get the an apple. Next, go out, go out. There's a W sound there. For us, for us. And lastly, disease, disease. Almost it almost sounds like disease, but it's a little bit more buzzing. Disease, disease. All right, that is on linking practice. Now, in fast and connected speech, we've also have vowel to vowel. Earlier, we've identified those sounds as consonant to vowel. We also have linking on vowel to vowel. Say, for example, how do we pronounce this one again? This is yi, yi, like the letter Y. We have yi insertion. So after vowels that sound like these ones, say for example the phrase here, the end. So take note or notice how I say the phrase, the end, the end. Slower, the end. Bit faster, the end, the end. So how do you call that? Unintentionally, you get to incorporate or insert ye sound at some phrases, even though they are not there on the spelling or anywhere. Just like with see it, there's also ye sound. As well as say it, there's also ye sound. All right, sorry for that. Let me go back. All right, with ye sound or ye insertion, there's also we, not we, but woo insertion, the W sound. So this is after vowels that sound like these ones. All right. Remember, I've mentioned about these kind of sounds, diphthongs, where you put a vowel and then smoothly glides it to another vowel. That's what we call diphthongs. Now going back, the woo insertion, like too often, too often, too often. Instead of saying too often, you say too often. You blend it, you connect it. Next is go on, go on. Instead of saying go on, you might say go on. So that is also a kind of fast and connected speech, especially focusing on linking. Time to practice. Let's say these words. Again, say it with me. The end, the end. See it, see it. Say it, say it. Too often, too often. Do it, do it. So those are fast and connected speech. And as I've mentioned earlier, I will be cutting my topic here because it's almost an hour, like 2 minutes behind, 2 minutes after. Then we'll reach the mark already. But anyway, I hope everything is clear so far. To recap, we've talked about suffix endings. Again, in suffix endings, there's two types, the suffix ed and the s or es suffixes. So when we say ed suffix, ed ending, we use it for past tense of regular verbs. There's three rules. First rule is the t sound. You do it when you have a unvoiced sound, and then you pair it with unvoiced sound also. There's also um, the second rule is on the sound d for voiced fast voice, and the last one is id, which is which is adding another syllable. We also have suffixes s or es, where we use it for plural nouns or third person point of view simple past tense verb. So there's also three rules. It's kind of similar with the first one. First rule is that um, the S sound, you take it as is, as long as you take it from a unvoiced word. Next we have es also. Next we have also sound, the buzzing sound. So the first one is hissing, the second one is buzzing, and then the third one is adding another syllable. Just to address those words that has the last consonant sound as hissing or buzzing. So we identify it was identified that with that particular sentences we can use it. All right, it. Also talked about consonant clusters. Basically, these are words that are beside each other, no vowels in between. They are grouped together just to form one syllable sound. We've also tapped into fast and connected speech. That's the last topic for today. For the remaining two on polite and formal pronunciation and regional accents and variation will be discussed on our next session. All right. Again, moving back, fast and connected speech. That's the last topic that I focused on. And when we say fast and connected speech, there is a linking feature. Um, you are linking feature. You are kind of linked, I guess, linked to um for a while. So here you linked the first and then the second word, so that it will blend well, and then if it will blend well, it will sound almost one word. Like the example I provided earlier, an apple, which is supposedly be pronounced as an apple. But then as time goes by, depending on the context and depending how we use these particular sounds of each letter, we can it is acceptable that there are some cases that some people would say an apple an apple to an apple. So yeah, that is it basically. And I think that is all for today, for today's session. So fantastic job again today. We've done like a couple of practic practice drills there, because practice drills are very important since I am really emphasizing on practicing, where practicing consistency is also the key in practicing. I've mentioned it a few times that it should be highlighted that practicing, no matter how small you covered in practicing some certain aspects, as long as you've covered something, that is already a progress. So we've covered three of supposedly today's focus. So we talked about those things, and I really hope everything we discussed was clear. So remember, the key is consistent practice, and always keep in mind that our goal with pronunciation here is not just about a perfect accent, but also being clear and sounding natural. So on a personal note, I am really impressed with the progress you are making. Like, it's great seeing your dedication to improving. So I hope you continue with that motivation that you have, and hopefully you get the what you deserve, which is to fluently speak English in various contexts and fluently pronounce words in various English language contexts. So that is all for today. Thank you everyone for your participation. Have a great night ahead. Goodbye. Let me end the stream. Bye bye.